Hey everyone, I found this interesting video called I'm a Doctor with ADHD. How do I really focus? I probably have ADHD, but I'm not a doctor, so I just want to understand what her perspective is and give my own thoughts. So let's check it out.
Staying focused in today's world where everything is designed to distract you is harder than ever. And because of that, if you can stay focused for longer periods of time and work smart, you'd be miles ahead of everyone else. Use this video as a test for yourself. If you can reach to the end without skipping it and really pay attention on a deep level, you'd be in the minority. Now, on top of all the distractions, imagine having ADHD, a neurological condition that makes my brain wired for distraction by default. But despite this, I found a system to stay hyper-focused, and it helped me score the top grade in my year at university, graduate from medical school, build my dream YouTube community, and now I'm working as a medical doctor in the UK. So if it worked for my baseline distracted ADHD brain, hopefully it will definitely help you whether you have ADHD or not. Alright, let's start with point number 1. To achieve deep focus, which Cal Newport describes as a state of distraction-free concentration when your brain works at its maximum potential, we need to take advantage of this golden window of time of the day when our brain works the best. This means working alongside our body's biological clock or circadian rhythm, which controls when we wake up and sleep and our peak energy times. This chart shows the spectrum of biological clock, so it ranges from extreme morning people like myself to extreme night people. I feel most awake and energized first thing in the morning, so for me that golden time of the day where being focused feels as effortless as it can get is when I first wake up, which is between 3 to 4 a.m. until I need to get ready to go to work at 8 a.m. Either way,
Is there such a thing as being productive the whole day? Because it's like my mind won't turn off even at nighttime either. So I guess thanks to these YouTube videos, it's making me use my brain a little so I can go to sleep better. But I'm just wondering, like, there's just no golden time. It's just forever golden time, which is like a curse to me.
Aware that 3 a.m. wake up time is not usual, but this is what feels natural to me, and I've been like this since I've known myself. That golden time of the day changes from person to person. So if you're an extreme night owl on the opposite side of the spectrum and you feel most irritable in the morning and work the best when everyone else sleeps, then I'd recommend you to make use of nighttime rather than forcing yourself to wake up early. And most people know by the time they become adults whether they're naturally a morning or night person or somewhere in between. But if you're not sure, think back and reflect on the times where you felt in the zone and work seemed to flow effortlessly. And once you identify that golden time of your day, build your work routine around it to achieve deep focus with minimal effort every day. But difficult thing is, if you're a night owl working a 9-to-5 job, this world isn't designed for you. Staying up.
To be fair, I think I have to disagree with her on this because I think it's just shifting in between when you're focused and when you're not focused. And yeah, I get time is and circadian rhythm makes sense, like biologically it makes sense, but I don't think that's the end all be all. Like once you're done that golden time, you're just cooked the rest of the day. Like, or if you're a night owl, then you're cooked the rest of the morning, pretty much the whole day until it's nighttime. Like, I think it's just receiving a balance of both. If you don't have enough energy, you just drink caffeine at that point. A lot of people drink caffeine and that's natural, but actually it's not natural. I personally don't drink caffeine because I try to stay awake from willpower.
Late to work on your goals during your golden time isn't sustainable because you still need to wake up early to get to your job. If that's the case, you can watch my video on how to train your biological clock to become more of a morning person. And I've been working on something special for anyone who wants more evidence-based tips on how to achieve deep. So the second strategy is to allow yourself to get bored and do nothing. How do we achieve deep focus by purposefully doing nothing? Sounds like a paradox, right? Chris Bailey explains this phenomenon using this graph. So we're in a hyperstimulated state, constantly jumping between things that grab our attention, but when we allow ourselves to feel boredom, we reduce that stimulation, which in turn expands our attention span, and we return to work feeling more focused. So
You know what the funny thing is she literally touches on focus mindset and also diffused mindset. Like diffused mindset is where you can feel bored. You don't have to constantly analyze everything. You don't have to always be productive. And so that's what I'm talking about, having a balance between the two rather than trying to say like, here's my golden time and this is the only time I'm going to be productive. I think it's more beneficial for us to understand that our brain works in different ways and that we do need to allow ourselves to get bored nowadays instead of doom scrolling and gooning and doing all that other stuff.
Claims being bored actually has the same effect as reducing our phone use, lowering that stimulation and improving focus.
Exactly. Doom
And we
scrolling,
know
you're still
that when you
stimulating
let
yourself.
your brain rest and wander, we activate something called the default mode network. This is a node pathway in our brain that becomes active when we're at wakeful rest, like when we're daydreaming or spacing out in the shower,
I'm
or
not gonna lie,
just
blankly
being
stare at
bored
a
in the
wall. Like
car
that's
in
even better
traffic,
than doom
which is
scrolling.
hard these days because of digital entertainment available 24/7. Research surrounding this is really recent and not fully known, but what we know is there is a dynamic interplay between default mode network that gets activated when we're bored and the executive network, which is involved in focusing and
Like I said, the focused and diffused parts of our brain. The diffused part is where it's scattered. You don't have to think as much, and you are more likely to feel fulfilled when you do hobbies, interests like going for a walk, taking a shower. And then focus mode is obviously where you're making sure that your brain is training itself, staying productive. Critical thinking, problem solving comes from this part. And so you don't want to constantly be critically thinking about everything. Sometimes your brain just wants to take a break. So that's where you have to shift in between the two.
working through tasks. So the idea is to find space in our schedules to activate
If you do one or the other, you either feel burnt out or you'll feel very lazy.
this default mode network, rediscover boredom, have a disconnection ritual from the digital world, even if it's for a few minutes, lay on the couch and see where your mind goes. You know, Einstein was known for daydreaming and using his daydreams to develop his theories. So doing nothing is actually doing something. This is generally when we find those breakthrough moments. I know I personally come up with the most interesting thoughts when I'm
Yeah, actually, there's a term for this. It's called a hypnagogic state, and Thomas Edison did this too. He would hold marbles in his hand while at his desk, and when he goes to sleep, he had pans on the floor to catch the marbles, jolting him awake. And when he wakes up, that's where you feel the most creative. Is the balance between focused and diffused mindset.
in the shower. So, plus it helps reduce our stimulation. So use boredom
Maybe
as
that's
a
what the
tool to
cradle of news
become
is
more
for.
focused. Now we come to insanely simple but hardest to practice. Number 3, phone fasting. For many of us, whether we admit it or not, social media and phone use has become a kind of addiction. Breaking this habit and creating a healthy relationship
Turn off notifications, put your phone away from your desk or wherever you're sitting, preferably in a different room. Yeah, I would say delete literally every social media.
with our devices
It's not
requires
worth it.
effort. American Psychological Association says when we're sitting in front of a computer, especially when
I
our
hate the
phone is
APA.
nearby, we focus on one thing for 40 seconds before we switch to something else. It's because when our phone is in sight, or even when we know it's nearby, we experience something called the anticipatory dopamine. By the way, dopamine is a chemical in our brain that enables us to take action and get motivated. Just seeing your phone or the thought of checking your phone triggers a dopamine response. Like your brain knows Instagram is just within reach. Classic example of this is walking into a grocery shop,
So
seeing
impulse
the
buying?
junk food aisle and thinking, ooh, I might want those crisps. So hide your phone away whilst working or
Hey, people need
leave
to
it
train
in
their
another
brain.
room. During my
Lock it.
medical school exams, I was so desperate that I used to give my phone to my flatmate Rasila because it's like she's holding me accountable. Putting your phone on airplane mode or do not disturb is also effective because our brain responds to cues. So just seeing an email
I mean, I guess that's a temporary fix, but like, why don't you just delete social medias? Like, what is the actual point in you having all those social medias? Because whenever I ask people, do you remember anything you did doom scrolled yesterday, the day before, the last week, the last month? Do you remember any of that? The last year? So you're just doom scrolling, wasting your time, and then you complain about not having enough time to do anything. Kind of makes no sense.
or notification pop-up can spike your dopamine, making it harder to focus. I feel like society just got trained in the last decade that notifications need to be part of our lives, but I personally do not have my notifications on for any social media accounts like Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat. In the end, we're all so trained to open these apps by the habits of dopamine that we're unlikely to miss anything important. You're always gonna open WhatsApp.
Phone messages and calls make sense, but everything beyond that is just, why are you doing it? At this point, you should just use your computer. At least you're not on your computer all the time.
And Insta DMs that you don't need to be told that it's there. If you just turn everything off, it empowers you. Now you're in control of the timing of your notifications rather than it.
Yes, this is one of the topics that I go over on this channel is agency. We want to control what we can control, and if you can't control that part of your life, then you're cooked.
Being in control of you. Fourth, don't attempt to multitask. When you try to multitask, you're not actually doing more than one activity at a time. Instead, your brain rapidly switches focus from one thing to another. This constant switching uses up brain's main energy source, oxygenated glucose, which is basically sugar attached to oxygen, and it's the exact thing your brain needs to stay focused. As a result, multitasking can lead to faster mental tiredness and reduced productivity.
I think I've heard
Instead,
multitasking
focus
is not
on
even a
one
real
thing at a
thing.
time
You can't
by
actually focus on two
prioritizing
things
your
at the same
work
time.
and start with the most important, urgent tasks and work your way through the list rather than overwhelming yourself. So how can we actually train our brain?
Exactly. That overwhelming part is such a big topic because people nowadays are just fed such influx of information and overwhelming themselves every day. And it's like, to what point do we just try to regulate that? It's like they don't even care with all these vices they have nowadays and dopamine rushes and marketing manipulation. They're just using all of us, to be honest.
To focus for longer. As you improve the skill of deep work, it becomes easier to stay focused for longer rather than taking mini breaks in between. And it's because of this phenomenon in physics called the activation energy. It's the initial effort or mental energy needed to start focusing on a task. Once you've started, staying concentrated becomes easier because you build momentum. When you first start training the skill, you might prefer using Pomodoro technique. So 20-minute work, then 10-minute break. But as you progress,
Or I think another way, a very effective way, is just doing it without distractions. Like just having a passion for doing something and just start doing it. Put a timer on. Yeah, the Pomodoro technique is pretty effective. But just set a timer for yourself and I really want to get this done. And then eventually you'll just start flowing. Like I remember doing video editing during the day and I had 1.5 hours doing it. And the first 10 minutes it was pretty boring, but then like you just get used to it.
Can increase the time you work consistently to 30 minutes, then 40 minutes, and eventually hours once you master the skill of.
Yeah, people don't realize like they don't have to do everything urgently. Like not everything is just you're gonna die tomorrow or something, and now you have to do everything in the last 24 hours. It's like you have so much time to just build up your skills, build up your time tolerance to doing things. Like if it takes you 10 minutes to do something first, that's fine. But build from 10 minutes, build it to 10, 15, 20, 30. Like you don't have to start off big. That's where a lot of people burn out or give up early is because they're not slowly putting the effort in. Consistency is very key.
Deep focus. Then rather than using a countdown, you can use a stopwatch instead. Now it's an endurance test against yourself and you can track your progress and see how long you can be in this zone before a brain fog starts to set in. This way you won't need to take breaks as often, and I prefer not to prevent overcoming that activation energy all over again. If you want to hear more from me, sign up for our free newsletter and to learn how to become more of a morning person and train.
I'm not gonna lie, this video was pretty enjoyable. Like she did have a lot of good topics. I think the only concern I'd have was the golden time. Like someone like me who has too much energy, and maybe it's ADHD, I don't know what the hell it is. I have some mental disorder. But anyway, I have too much energy throughout the day that it doesn't matter what my circadian rhythm is. I will be up until like 1 a.m. still doing stuff. And so that's the only part I'd push back on because I think anyone can balance between focused and diffused mode. And once you're able to get a good balance in your life, it doesn't depend on like what time of day you feel more energized in. And so if you like this video, thanks for watching. I'll leave the original video in the description below. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace. If you want a place to reflect, ask questions, share ideas, or talk with people who are trying to live their life intentionally, you can join my Discord server in the description below.